Okay, so you might be wondering where all the longsword videos are coming from. The answer is that if I want to be producing at least once a month or more, which I only started wanting to do recently, it really is just that much bigger. Now, this comp is probably one of the largest in HEMA. It's called Tyrnhaw and it's in Slovakia. The curious thing about this one is it's probably the best known and most successful right of way longsword comp in the world. I am personally far more ambivalent toward longsword rule sets in general than I am Saber, but I really enjoyed watching this comp, and I don't think right of way is bad for longsword. Now, you might be wondering, but what exact conventions of right of way? The answer is I don't know, because when I tried to find out, it gave me a 404, but it's mostly pretty typical so-called hand tempo priority. With that in mind, let's dive into the match. Our two fencers here are both Polish. Antony Olbrychski of Akademia Rzemierzy on the right, who is one of the best longsworders in the world with I think the most weeks at world number one ever, and Mikołaj Kołodziej of the same club on the left, and also one of the best longsworders in the world as well, by the way. Now, the camera angle they switch to for the first touch makes my job more difficult than usual, but the main thing we see is Kołodziej makes this kind of forward press, this soft press, and Olbrychski makes a really good choice to just hold off in response and only give to ensure any direct attack can't land, timing his own holds to start as Kołodziej moves so that it feels like the space is collapsing. Now, this isn't going to be a simple bait and pull shot. Kołodziej is a great fencer and immediately knows any attack here needs to be multi-tempo, so he tries to beat and go. But because Olbrychski has very effectively dictated how the attack has to occur, he can also pull away just enough that the beat has to chase the blade too much and gives Olbrychski plenty of time to parry riposte. The second touch is a very similar technical problem. The beat has to chase even if it's scored against differently by counter-attack this time and from Olbrychski's press and hold and Kołodziej's retreat. This also means it's coming from a fair way out with no relative closing of the space, if anything, a relative increase of it at the time it launches. So it's always going to be exposed. Kołodziej clearly wants that beat attack, but he's going to have to either find a better setup or something else, because this has been 2 out of 2 from going on Olbrychski's terms with nothing to anchor his opponent in place to be hit. The following touch is lovely from Olbrychski and is a good example of how to deal with someone opening away. The straight beat attack has its place, especially against a hard press or abrupt hold in right-of-way fencing, but against soft holds with big pulls in long distance they really struggle, as we've just seen. But here, Olbrychski gives Kołodziej something to look at by being off the blade with this big first tempo, then gets the counter time, prise defer, and his opponent staying to look for the touch guarantees target will be available. Really gorgeous tactical choice and technical finish. Here, we see the exact same thing I was talking about regarding where Kołodziej's complex attack needs to be. This time he absorbs Olbrychski's advance, and then his hold here is a bit too long to truly catch Olbrychski on the step, but the space is closed and his momentum is still enough that one feint guarantees the finish of the attack, and Olbrychski is too immobile and close to really consider a runaway counter, so the parry was always going to be there. So here we have the kind of touch that I think makes Hemerus often a bit wary of right away, but in the internal logic of the game it's completely correct. Aesthetically, Hemerus and longsworders in particular love head hits, and I think this love is often detrimental to Hema sabers specifically, but it's a texturally backed preference in longsword in certain examples, and I think that target priority makes a lot of sense for a game in longsword. But within the context of the assumption of right of way, where it is the responsibility of the defender to act responsibly in the face of an attack, this is unambiguously correct. There's not even an argument for an attack in prep here, as Olbrychski's action doesn't start travelling until Kołodziej's attack is starting. Also just a very good long attack practically off the line from Kołodziej. Now we get the same general idea to catch on the front foot for the compound attack from Kołodziej, but notice that Olbrychski is looking for the pull off his own forward movement now. Assuming it's the same situation as last time, Kołodziej pulls the trigger and it's a very nice full short parry riposte from right. The next touch we see a long phase of little marches that Olbrychski is slowly winning the territory battle with, until we finally get to the touch itself. Here we have Olbrychski use that same plan of using the compound on the commitment forward that Kołodziej has changed to, But because he's won the Territorial tug of war, he can be even more certain of it. There's no way Koji does anything other than parry here. So once he sees the distance is right, Obritsky has a free hand from winning the Territorial battle. Here we start to see Koige starting to find the time for this compound thrust. Same basic idea as the last couple of times. The difference, though, between the two successes and the failure from 2 touches ago is that Obritsky's movement forward is far more inquisitive. He's trying to see what he can create by pushing, and this is just a bit too committed for him to have time to clear, because he's just doing it from a tad close. This is a really well fought area of the game, and it will be interesting to see if this match gets won through a break here or if it stays so attritional. Then we have this fantastic touch just before the end of the period. Obritsky makes a nice little compound that finds nothing but wins a lot of the piece. And just as Koji starts to come back in, he threatens the redoublement. This redoublement is never on, but it forces Koji to check himself, which lets Obritsky set up a second compound by adding another half step, generating a bit of front foot temporal advantage that means he can feint now in broken time, to give him plenty of time to find the finish. Lovely touch. Now, there's 2 seconds on the clock in the first period, and you'd think we'd be going into the minute break, but the fences have other plans. Obritsky tries to force another exchange with this threat of a blitz, but just bites a little too much, and Koji makes a really well-timed compound that barely gets him on the way out. That puts us 4-6 going into the break. So we open the scoring with this same compound from Koji. I said earlier that he needed to find that timing on his opponent's front foot into a bout lager to ensure the specific combination of Obritsky being held in space, needing to parry, and having no time for the feint, and he's just produced it 3 times, 4 if you count punishing the blitz at the end of the first period. We have a sick rally that comes to nothing, and then oh boy, what an insane broken time attack from Koji. This time he goes on Obritsky's hold again, but the context is a bit different to the failure a couple of times before. Obritsky holds off his retreat, but he's still looking to form an attack here, not pull short. And having been hit with 1 billion attacks recently is maybe starting to doubt counterattacking into the first movement. As aside from the arm touch around the beat earlier, his counters have been too late. So he tries to parry here, partly out of the counterattack not working, and largely out of just stopping after his retreat to try to develop an attack, so he's not ready to pull. And once you parry against a feint that doesn't bring the sword into presence, you fight an uphill battle. Koji just needs to be patient to land the final finish. Here we have the same compound attack as 3 times before that puts Koji in the lead for the first time in the match. But then for only the second time since Koji found this new time to go, Obritsky finds a new solution. Before, he baited with a pull-out to parry riposte, and that worked once, but is always risky because you can end up chasing the blade as happened 2 touches ago. The standing counters were too slow to be ahead of the final attack, but here with this attack and prep coming forward, he kills the compound entirely. Even getting a nice opposition, but in my opinion, because this is made on the feint, it actually has way anyway to me. It's a really clever way to get a direct attack into. Feign the push to draw the compound attack, and you get such a nice, clear, straight attack. Obritsky retakes the lead with this one, where the camera changes on me at the worst possible time, and I can't make too much of it, but it's well executed, and a similar kind of conventional time compound to the thrust ones Koji had been making. The next touch equalizes to 8 each. Once the first long attack is made by Obritsky, it gives Koji a really good picture of the next one. I genuinely don't think he gets this attack in prep to the arm anyway, if he didn't get a very similar image to look at just beforehand. One more of those compound underthrusts into the press, and he's 1 away from winning the thing. Of course, things can't be that simple, and Obritsky gets his equalizer. It's a classic. Supposedly Obritsky is pretty handy at modern saber too, and it really comes across here. A classic 4-meter strike play of baiting, prep, pause, and 1-2 blitz. Beautiful. That puts us at 9 apiece, match point on the tiebreaker stuff. And Koji wins it with one of the cleverest and honestly maybe bravest set plays I've seen in fencing. One of the things you can be sure about with these kinds of point forward but arm neutral or back guards is that most of the time to attack by cut, people will chamber first. The best fencers do so by integrating that chamber into some kind of purposeful movement, such as a parry or a coupe, But even in these comps where hitting with the flat scores, it's a natural decision when deciding to cut, because it gives you more flexibility in where you will cut to. Most thrusts launched as part of a blitz are also aiming for high shoulder, and most people aren't going to launch even a false blitz into a riposte with the expectation that they would have to hit a ducking fencer. They'd likely position themselves to both parry and riposte high, so even if they clear, they may not be able to exploit. It's genuinely a really clever idea. And just being willing to put your head at leg level is always a little brave, and it pays off, winning him the comp in spectacular fashion against maybe the best to ever do it in the modern era. Thank you for watching. If you'd like another longsword video, here's my most recent one, or if you'd like a right of way video, here's one with a funny clickbait thumbnail. Enjoy!